absolute Knicks streets. The streets are buzzing. Knicks win 113-108 in the final preseason. A fair warm-up before the season. Lots to talk about and break down as the New York Knicks go in to the season opener next Wednesday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They will have to officially make cuts by 5 p.m. tomorrow night. But today, no Cat, no OG, no Mitch, and no Josh Hart. But who would step up? The captain, Jalen Brunson, absolutely in mid-season form, and great to see the captain come to ball out in this one as the New York Knicks, led wire to wire. And we're going to give out the grades, the game ball, shout you guys out, and talk about the roster spots, who's in, who's out. You already know what it is. Johnny Cheeba's in the house. Great to see you. Glenn Jones, Al Tango, Ernest, Cameron, and everyone coming through the building. You already know what it is. We give out the game ball and we look at the highlights. But Jalen Brunson gets the game ball in this one. And a lot of guys stepped up. The big takeaway for me is the depth, right? Concerns over losing Brogdon now. Not so much of a concern to me. I think Landry Shamet took his chance. He really stepped up. We're going to obviously talk about that a lot tonight. We're going to talk about Landry. We're going to talk about the starters with Mike Brown going with Trey Jemison and Diawara as well. Those guys took their chances. We had no Dardier, no McCullough today, no Tosan, and no Garrison Matthews, right? So 4 guys that are capable didn't even get an opportunity as Mike Brown, played the 10-man rotation to the end, right? No garbage time, no extended garbage time at all. And I like it. We're getting ready, and we're definitely ready, I think, for Wednesday night, right? I do think Landry took his chance. I think Kolek will be situational, but definitely put his best foot forward. I think Kolek was really solid. And once again, we'll look at the grades, but hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, Mikal Bridges, man, was the other big standout from the starters to me, along with Deuce McBride off the bench. Ladies and gentlemen, Deuce McBride continues to come off that bench with Jordan Clarkson. Huck Porty came off the bench as well. And Yabul Sele. I think Yabu and Clarkson had one of their better games in this one. But defensively, I think we got better as the game went along. The 3-point ball was fallen early, and that is what helped the Knicks get huge separation, right? And I do think that Trey Jemison, I'm so happy we picked him up, man. 2-way, I'm kind of thinking to myself, if we didn't need to squeeze Diawara in via the standard roster deal on the second round pick exception, I do think there was a case for Trey Jemison to make a real roster spot, right? Because that big man depth is really critical, right? So Cat dealing with a quad injury, doesn't seem anything serious, but again, it's not ideal going into the start of a season. OG dealing with an ankle, right? We don't know the severity of that, but they're being very precautious, as they should be. Mitch was just kept out basically as rest. So Mitch would have been able to suit up if this was a real regular season game. And also we found out that Mike Brown is consulting with Casey Smith regarding Mitchell Robinson. And Casey Smith, the leader of the health science team with the New York Knicks, is talking about, let's just keep Mitch out. So he told Mike Brown to keep Mitch out for this one. And obviously Josh Hart is still dealing with, the soreness in the back as well. So that's 4 huge rotation pieces were out. But the big story is the depth pieces stepped up. Trey Jemison, Diawara with the starts. Really like what I saw from the other guys as well. Yabu, Clarkson. But yeah, Mikal, JB, and Deuce McBride, man, familiar faces. Get after it. and they get the 3 standouts, fam. Nobody was silent or sloppy in this one. It's all solids and it's all slick standout from Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Deuce McBride. Fam, Altango 45, shout out to you in the chat, says JB looks ready for the season. Salute to David M. Look, it wasn't the perfect kind of warm up because, yeah, ideally you want everyone ready to go, 4 guys out. But the pleasing thing is, in that absence, other guys stepped up, you know. Trey Gem, we should start calling him fam, right? As in GEM, because he's been a gem so far. Prezi the boss says, salute. I'm not going to speculate and wait until tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'll get excited after the official announcements. Yeah, that's some wise thoughts, fam. But if we're reading the tea leaves after today, I think Landry really stepped up, and my guy Johnny Chiba, I've been talking to him about Landry. His professionalism, but just producing as well. Whenever his number is called, you know, Landry just has a knack. He's a Nick with the knack, in the words of Clyde. I know Johnny Chiba will like that one. As the Knicks led at the half, look, if we're talking consistency-wise, Mikal Bridges, he gets my player of preseason, right? JB will get the game ball tonight, but player of preseason in the new coaching realm, new situation, all of these things in mind, Mikal Bridges, right? What a new man, a new lease on life, whatever you want to call it. He's looking like the Phoenix Suns, Mikal Bridges. I was going to say Brooklyn, but not even that, fam, as we don't even mention Brooklyn on this thing. But really liked our bigs. Shout out to Trey Jemison and Huck. Trey set a huge screen there. I thought those guys worked tirelessly. They were setting screens all game long. And we all know with this new fast-paced offense, it's a lot of possessions. It's a lot of up and down running. These guys, they played hard. And like I said, if it was up to me, Trey Jemison would get a regular roster spot. But the two-way, better than nothing. He will be limited, though, to 40, 45 games or so. So we'll see how that plays out, ladies and gentlemen. But with the return of Jalen Brunson today, in terms of his peak performance, let's take a look at the numbers now. As the Knicks got back to fast break points, they got up 48 threes, man, and shot 37.5%, which is the best, I think, of preseason in a high volume. New York Knicks got 11 steals, so I really like that. Shout out to Diawara, who got 2 steals. Shout out to Mikal for 2 steals. Deuce got 2. And Jordan Clarkson got 2 steals as well. Finished in the minus, but I thought the 13 points on 5 of 12, better from Clarkson with 3 dimes and the 2 steals. So Clarkson hopefully warming up. He looked better today, and a much bigger upgrade over campaign, which is what we all hope for as well. So salute to everyone else coming through the building. What's up, Grays? We got to see, some Charlotte, no Ball, no Miller. Bridges started hot, and Sexton got hot as well. And the Knicks had a tough time dealing with that. It was an adjustment. But I felt that with this fast-paced offense, man, we are just going to blow a lot of teams out. As we pull up the stats, the Knicks lead basically wire to wire, but the fast break points are back, right? The Knicks only had 5 fast break points against Washington today. They finished with 12, won the second chance points battle as well. We won the rebounding. Once again, shout out to the bigs. And also the 28 assists. Yeah, never going to gloss over that. Never going to gloss over the ball movement. 28 assists is nice. And hopefully we're going to continue to see that all season long, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to roll the highlights. JB was getting downhill, and this is play of the game, fam. that was looking like prime Steve Nash with Amari Stoudemire in the pick and roll. Jalen Brunson with Trey Jemison. So nice. We're going to see that twice and thrice. But good finish from the big man in that one. Yuri Ark, shout out. I think we got our 10-man rotation. Yeah, I think first and foremost, on Yuri's point, players aside, I think Mike Brown is going to run 10 men. Whoever it's going to be, I think he's going to stick to 10. Secondarily, I think, you saw two traditional bigs. You obviously saw Jemison, and you saw Huck, and you saw Yabusele at the power forward. So I think that's a nice adjustment on Yabu playing the 5 last game, which was very ineffective defensively. But our two traditional bigs set great screens, fam, in the way of Jamison and Huck. And they're going to be a handful for opposing bigs, man. They're going to run a lot of teams into the ground, especially the way they rebound and run the break as well. Shout out to Russell. As Johnny Chiba says, which Landry is, Shamet or Fields? Landry, Shamet. And I do think that Landry Shamet is a guy that came in, hit those threes, defended really well. Got some big praise from Alan Hahn and Mike Breen on the call. So it was a lot of NBA action in this one, and you just love the hustle. Now, another bright spark was Muhammad Diawara. You see him, one of his most acrobatic finishes as well, getting his hand with a deflection and a steal too. We're going to talk about Tyler Kolek next. But yeah, from Diawara, from all the way back of the second round to get a start, I'm not going to gloss over that. I think Diawara is definitely going to be a major player this season. Right, he's not an afterthought. He's going to be a guy that is on the cusp of rotation, situational minutes. But considering where we've come from, guys, with the wings positions, last season we were scraping by trying to play enough wings if OG or Macau were out. Now Macau played, but OG's out, Hart is out. We still didn't even need to play Dardier for whatever reason. We're going to talk about that, right? We didn't need to play Tosan, and we also didn't need to play Garrison Matthews or Kevin McCullough as well. So we have about 4 wings sitting on the sidelines today that didn't even play, even after the fact that OG is out. So that's a huge shout out to the front office for addressing that need and making adequate backup. Now, as promised, we're going to talk about Tyler Kolek, because talking about backups, right, there's going to be a lot of talk about, continuing on the Malcolm Brogdon situation, right? I thought Kolek took his chance. Wasn't as good as last game, but I think he was just very, very solid and very, very steady. Russell says, I think Shamet got it, but you wanted Matthews on the team. Yeah, well, I think things might still be, up for debate, because 5 p.m. tomorrow we need to make those cuts. But the fact that, Garrison Matthews did not play at all today, not even extended garbage time, I get it. Mike Brown's trying to get these guys ready, right, for the first opening night tip, right? As we get to a super chat from Yuri, shout out to Yuri, got the streets buzzing. Yuri says, we got our 10-man after tonight, and our starting 5 is decided, and our bench is decided as well. You got Deuce, you got Clarkson, you got Yabusele, you got Shamet, and you got Huck and Mo as well, right? And Mikal Bridges, yeah, definitely did good. Mikal Bridges did good, very, very good. This preseason, my player of preseason, Yuri. Mikal Bridges stepping up in a major way. You see him hit that mid-range. Now, there's one small criticism or critique that I'd love to work on, I think, with Mikal. That pull-up transition 3 still looks flat. But everything else has been money. He just needs to get that out of his game. That pull-up transition three. I don't mind the shot. The shot itself, though, is just looking really flat. No arc on that shot. But man, did JB give us a huge lift with no OG and no Cat. But yeah, further to Yuri's super chat. Once again, thank you and appreciate the contributions, fam. You definitely got us buzzing. I've been preaching about a 10-man rotation ever since Mike Brown came on board. I'm glad that it's extended. I would love it to even go 11 sometimes. And you mentioned Diawara. He could get in there. Is now the perfect time to talk about Dardier? Like, how does Dardier fit? Where does Dardier fit? I would love him to stay on the roster, and we don't need to trade him now. You basically keep Landry. I think you cut Garrison Matthews, unless they're still in conversations, which, is looking less and less likely. I think it's looking more unlikely that a trade happens because, Garrison didn't play today. Now, for whatever is happening with that Dardier conversation, clearly a team ain't offering something enough that is going to interest us. So I do think it's good if Dardier can stay. We just got to be more patient with him. But I do think the size and the length of Mo Diawara is definitely more ready. I think he's more pro ready. I think Dardier has a higher upside. Well, actually, I correct myself. That could be up for debate because Mohamed Diawara, man, he has an upside. But I think right now Mohamed Diawara can impact winning more as of today with his length and his size. With Dardier, I do think probably has more offensive upside. What are y'all thinking about that? Roberto Torres says, yeah, Diawara plays with much better with the starters. Yet I think he really complements that. Roberto. Johnny Chiba says Diawara keeps showing sparks of a better than average player, and yet you guys are on the money from downtown. And salute to y'all in the chat, buzzing. I think once again the Knicks strike again, man. A second round pick. There was some pretty awful draft takes. I think people saying, "Oh, Diawara might not even come from. He might not even make it over from overseas." I think he's already debunked that. But look, everyone evaluates differently. Roberto says Jamison the third looks like Mace. Shout out. David says, do you think we make that trade, CT, or are we going to stand pat with Shamet? David, I think both are still on the table, but I'm going to say probably 70 we stand pat. 30% potential for a late minute trade if there's a deal that makes sense. Because I do think they're very keen on another veteran, and it might not even be Garrison Matthews. They might be looking at now. We're going to talk about some names. Some guys got cut. Delano Banton got cut today. For those y'all that don't know, Dennis Smith Jr. did get cut. We talked about him last night. Now I'm happy with Kolek, but the organization might just be thinking, man, could we get a DeLon Wright back in here? Could we get a Dennis Smith Jr. just as insurance? Because we're very deep at every position right now, except for the point guard position, right? We're very deep at every position now, except for the point guard position. So that is something to still keep an eye out on. But don't forget, no Josh Hart, who, look, it's been a less than ideal preseason for Jay Hart. Got banged up in Abu Dhabi, played 7 minutes, and then in the first game has not been able to play at all, right? So I think it's going to be a case of catch up. Josh Hart is going to be playing catch up in season, but that's okay because of our depth. Like I said, you don't see any grades from Garrison, McCullough, who I thought deserved to play, but he's situational. Tosan could give us some depth, and Dardier as well. So on a night with no Josh Hart, no one's really even going to be talking about it because Diawara looked good and Shamet looked good. Deuce McBride is a wing. He's looking good. And did I mention Diawara? I'll mention him again. Shout out to Johnny Chiba, says Kolek will turn out to be the better backup point guard than Brogdon. And we'll all be happy to have him, and when he starts getting minutes with great players. Yeah, Johnny Chiba, I think the IQ of Kolek was good, but I think the biggest difference, and also got to shout out the bigs. You got to show love to these bigs, because I think Kolek struggles to get around an athletic defender, but if he has a really good screen, that could be the difference between him getting downhill, and getting into the paint, right? As I give my man Huck Porty a shout out, look how slim Huck Porty looks, and he's really running the floor well. I think, once again, shout out to Huck's dedication in the summer, and shedding some of that weight, helping the knees, dealt with meniscus the last 2 seasons. I think he got advice from Casey Smith and the team to say, look, just drop a couple of pounds, and I think that's going to help y'all stay healthy, and also play regular rotation minutes as well. So far, so good from Trey Gem and Huck too. And look, Mitch, just a precaution, didn't play, but the word is Mitch could have played if it was a regular season game. I'm loving the substitutions. What else are y'all loving? Yuri says also no drop coverage. Yeah, man, it helps having no cat defensively right now. But I think they've made some great corrections, like you say. Yabu playing at the power forward, helps us rebound, and we won the glass in this one. 31 points from JB. Yuri also says we're using some zone principles. Yep. One thing that I think, is going to be a common theme, and our offense is going to go in a little bit of, hot and cold. I think, with, inevitably, when you guys, when you play at a faster speed, there is going to be some ill-advised shots. And I think we're still going to have to live with some of that with Clarkson. Like I said, the pull-up threes from Macau. I think Brunson did force it a little bit sometimes as well. But look, that's going to happen. Guys get loose. They start playing fast. They feel it. But I do think the third quarter was probably the letdown in this game, right? Full control first half. The Knicks were up by 10. The third quarter, we did let, Charlotte fight their way back. And I give them credit, because they did fight. The Hornets did fight to get back into this ball game. I thought Con Kneppel looks like a guy that's going to help them out. We saw McNeely. We saw a bunch of new faces as well. We saw Colin Sexton. We've seen him get hot in a hot minute. Okay, I appreciate ya with the update. Right, so it looks like Mike Brown's been speaking, and we've got an update here. Mo Diawara was putting in that work, right? So Yuri says Mike Brown literally just said that Muhammad Diawara earned a starting job today from practice. Wow, that's kind of surprising, but not that surprising either, fam. And with that said, like, I think, Mo D is a guy, you saw his length. I mean, he was wowing Mike Breen. That one where he pulled down that rebound with just his wingspan, off a vertical leap, he pulled that from the heavens in that one, right? I'll bring up that play later again as well. The one in transition where he finished strong. If he continues to tighten up that handle, like Optimus 2G says, shades of Pascal, baby Pascal on that front. And look, all of this development investment, who did we bring in? That name escapes me, apologies, but we did bring in a development guru in terms of beefing up the development team and that department, right? And so we've got a lot of guys that we can sink our teeth into in terms of getting them to potential elite level with the NBA game, right? I really like my guy McCullough too. So some guys available: Delano Banton, Dennis Smith Jr., some of the names out here, Victor Oladipo. But I think the Knicks value continuity. as Jordan Clarkson was really feeling comfortable, right? And look, it's only been 5 games in for Clarkson, so if he looks more like he does tonight, there won't be many complaints, right? I thought he was moving and grooving, and he picked up a couple of dimes, which you love to see. Um, let me pull it up again. So we had Clarkson pulled up with 3 dimes, 2 steals, and the 13 points, right? Shout out to Miles, chipped in with 4 dimes, JB with 6, Bridges and Jemison had 4 dimes, and Diawara with 3 as well. So you love to see that, the assists and the ball movement continues to rise, right? This is one of the earliest plays in the ball game, the swing play, right? Shout out to Steve Jones. This account does great breakdowns. The little things the Knicks have been working on offensively are coming together. Throw ahead to McCall, who gets a screen. The nail help, and it's right to Brunson. Notice the cut from the wing holds the help. Hornets try to switch. Open 3 for JC. So that's been the other huge common theme from preseason, right, so far. Man, with that Diawara talk, got me super, super, super excited. Al Tango says Diawara going to be great for us. Jet Life for Life, not too high on Yabusele so far. I think it was a value signing, but yeah, it's going to be ups and downs, I think, with Yabu. The 3-point ball needs to be consistent, right? But look, I do think Yabusele in an up-tempo system is going to thrive off the bench. We also have Markel Fultz out here. The Wolf Perry salute says Diawara is going to shine as the year goes on. Yeah, I second that once again. Billy Lang, appreciate Optimus for the update. Yeah, Billy Lang, the guy that we brought in. And look, investment, I always said there's no salary cap on investment off the court, right? So, look, I'm not going to lie. When this starting 5 came out, I thought, like, okay, what's the rationale? But I get it now. After watching the game, it's crazy how it all works out, because you got a couple of scorers, but you need a couple of defenders to go, right? So I thought, look, if Cat, OG are out, the natural thing would be to put Yabusele and to put Deuce McBride in. But then you kind of go off the last game, and that didn't work out too well. So what did Mike Brown do? He made that word adjustment. He made an adjustment, and he said, no, we need some defensive, reinforcement. And he calls upon Trey Jemison III, a guy on a 2-way, and Muhammad Diawara, a guy who was drafted with the 56th pick, was it? 54th pick, right? So unconventional decisions from looking afar, but Mike Brown been true to his word, basically saying that anyone can earn a spot. I think Keon Ellis used to be on a 2-way, and he kind of made his NBA career now. And here he is playing Trey Jemison, who's also on a 2-way deal, right? But look, that just goes to show that he ain't a regular 2-way kind of guy. Muhammad Diawara ain't a regular end of the draft kind of guy. He's been playing pro overseas, right? And they don't teach size as well. They don't teach size. Shout out to Chris Connors. I agree. I think Clarkson will be an upgrade over Campaign. Clarkson got those assists up. Yeah, you see just in those moments where the offense is stalling, Clarkson's that guy that can just find daylight in a phone booth, like in the words of Alan Hahn. And so, yeah, you need those guys, especially when the offense does stall a little bit. It's just going to come down to shot selection. It's going to come down to that shot selection. We're going to look at some training warm-up footage as well for y'all. Anyone high on Kevin McCullough? Here he is putting in work pre-game, courtesy of Chris Persianen. Great footage. and K-Mac working on his shot. He's another guy on a two-way who I think will get his opportunities this season at some point. I think defensively he's ready-made, right? But so far so good with Diawara. Trey Jemison slightly ahead of him right now. We will talk about Dardier. I want to talk a bit more about Kolek as well. So yeah, keep the comments coming. Here, some more great footage of Ariel Hukporty hitting the 3 ball. Right, my goodness. I don't know how to feel if Ariel Hukporty starts knocking down a 3. Now, we see this a lot with warm-ups, empty gyms, but the guy's got touch, and he does have soft touch. Was a little passive offensively tonight. I think it was Hukporty. However, he does have that in his bag, right? Now, we do need to talk about Dardier, right? One of the biggest, situations, talking points, whatever you want to call it. Gray says, given Diawara's performance, I'm open to trading Dardier if necessary to keep Matthews. So I do think if Dardier does get traded, Matthews would be the main guy that they would try to get on the squad. But I think with Landry's performance, that kind of makes Matthews not as necessary. So I feel what you're saying. I would just probably express more patience and just keep Dardier around for now, because I do think we can boost that stock even more. But I agree with the point about Diawara's performance. We'll see how that plays out. Now, SF Wisdom says, I don't see how Jamison gets minutes on this team. I can see it. So I could see it coming if Mitch, doesn't play on a back-to-back. Hukporty, hasn't been able to stay healthy yet. I think there's going to be a moment where Trey Jemison gets opportunities, fam. Again, Hukporty's dealt with a meniscus for 2 seasons in a row. Yabu, not showing to be a traditional big man. And so we'll see. Hopefully, I wish for health and for better wealth for everyone. And with that said, Mike Brown, the experiment so far so good. Here he did a great segment with Tim Legler on the coach's corner, breaking that all down from last playoffs against the Detroit Pistons. And on that note, Mike Brown says after the Brogdon announcement, he says next man up has to step up and go get it anytime somebody is out. So he's old school, man. Mike Brown is old school, and it's all about, next man up. Kolek got that opportunity today. Now, if y'all are inclined, I'm not personally, but we all know Spencer Dinwiddie got cut yesterday. What are your thoughts on a potential Spencer Dinwiddie acquisition, fam? He's got the length. But for me, man, I'm not going to deal with that based on his previous history with the New York, facing the New York Knicks. We have the leaks out from the New York Knicks New City edition. Threads are going to drop, and I love them, man. Nice throwback, right? I still feel like it's kind of maybe at 85, 90%. I think it's missing something, but I definitely are feeling these. Let us know how you feel about these new Knicks City editions. I do think they're missing something a little bit. I just think it's missing something. But the New York is perfect. Like it ain't in that kind of italic like the last one. I'm cool that it's got no pinstripes, finally. We'll see what else happens, fam, with the rest of the squad. So let's roll these highlights once again. Shout out to everyone coming through the building on a night where Jalen Brunson showed his best performance of preseason, and he looks ready to go against Spider next week. Now, 5 p.m. tomorrow, we'll be live post-game. We'll be live to talk about any significant roster announcements or changes. On that note, Juan V Says, I'm impressed with Huck Porty's progress. So far, so good, fam. Yep. Shout out to the development staff. Simon says it's sad that we'll have to let go of Dardier just because of business. You mentioned that word business, and I guess, yeah, every player knows what they sign up for. And, you can't say, I guess, Dardier hasn't had opportunities. If he does get traded, I hope that he gets to stick around and gets more opportunities. But yeah, you get small opportunities, you need to grab them because the next guy's coming. And Diawara has come in and really changed things based off this performance, right? So I'm going to update X and get some new quotes from Mike Brown. But look, so far, I think coming out of this situation, it's a positive conclusion to the night, right? Knicks get that final win. And depth pieces really stood up, I think, in a major way. And look, that's the difference between me from this season now to last season, right? Last season, we lose 2 guys and we really feel it. It's like, man, we got to play Sims. We got to play Precious, heavy minutes. I mean, tonight we had no Cat, no OG, no Mitch, no Hart. We still didn't even play Dardier. McCullough didn't play. Tosan didn't play. And Garrison didn't play. And we're not even really worried about it because Diawara and Trey Jemison, Kolek, Shamet, Deuce McBride, Clarkson, Yabusele all stepped up. And of course, Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson were standouts in this one. Now, hopefully we get to see a lot more finishes like this from Mikal, where he went up, not looking to avoid contact. I did notice that. Fam. That's what went through my head. As soon as I saw this, I thought, oh, Mikal, he's got that bag, and he's ready now to finish strong at the basket, right? Now, underrated play in this one is look at Diawara. Look what Diawara is doing to seal off that help defender right there. Just enough so that TJ Salon is not able to affect Mikal Bridges, right? That's some pro experience there from Muhammad Diawara, right? See, these things don't go unnoticed, fam. Salon would have got to that shot. He would have been able to, deter that shot attempt at the rim if Diawara wasn't sealing him off. Roberto says, CT, I think whoever did not play tonight, except the starters, will not make the team. Yeah, so on that note, Roberto, I think that's going to be Garrison Matthews. I think if I'm making a bet in Vegas right now, and I had to make a call, I think Garrison is the one that gets cut, and I do think Alex Len, Matt Ryan get cut. To your point, completely agree. With Dardier, like I think there's a big chance he sticks around because we don't need to make a trade. But I do think obviously the big winner out of tonight is Landry Shamet. So step up, Landry Shamet. Y'all deserve, major props. And he gets the solid, selfless grade in this one. Let's look at Landry's production. Landry Shamet finished with 60% from downtown, 3 of 5, picking up where he left off. Hit both free throws, 11 points, finished in the +3, gave us a rebound as well. So 11 points off the bench with Landry, Tyler Kolek as well. 2 of 5, assist, a steal, +6, 6 points for Tyler Kolek. And I think that's the kind of role that we could look at for Kolek. 10, maybe 12 to 14 minutes per night, right? Things get a bit iffy if he has to play 20, I think defensively. Maybe Brogdon was a guy that was going to play 15 to 20. But if we don't make another point guard addition, I think Kolek's capable of that 10 to 12 minute a night. And you see it, in the box score, +6. Got the offense really moving. And just another depth piece that can give Brunson a rest, to help the offense move, right? Remember, when Deuce is out there, his best role is to shoot and score. Clarkson's best role is to put it up and score as well. So who do you need to play alongside those guys? Is a guy that's going to set them up, a guy that's not going to look for, for a shot, too much. So we'll see how that plays out. Look, in terms of the trade, the plus for a trade is that you could get Garrison Matthews later in the season, as a 15th guy. But it's important to note that if we were to trade Dardier, Garrison wouldn't be able to join the squad immediately. Right, Landry would get the first spot. It'd have to be Garrison, I think, at a later time. Fam, and so he might not be that patient. He might want to be on a squad immediately, and he might have some teams lining up right now. And I see Russell say, yeah, Matthews does want to stick around. I think he likes being in a team that can win, and everyone's kind of feeling the vibes with this one, and knows that we're in for a very special season. Shares V says Exum is a name. So Exum hasn't got cut yet, apparently. It was Dennis Smith that got cut. So we are going to have to wait and see. But I would think that DeLon Wright would probably be ahead of those guys. Roberto says hot take, but Pacome already traded. That's why he didn't play tonight. That could be a possibility. I was kind of paying attention to see what he looked like on the bench. He didn't really look like a guy that was too down. But yeah, we'll find out. All will be revealed tomorrow. But what we can shout out is what we do know, and a lot of players stepped up, including the captain. His best game of preseason, right, was getting a lot of criticism. Actually, I see a lot of people criticizing Brunson already, saying, "Oh, is he built for this system?" Last year, a lot of people were crying out for Brunson to move the ball. He moves the ball more, and he gets criticism that way. So sometimes it's a no-win situation. But we look at Brunson's shot chart, and he was killing them in the paint, and he was killing them from straight downtown as well. Missed a couple in the corner, but I do like specifically the wrinkle in the offense where Brunson isn't the one bringing the ball up. He's a guy who will, come off ball a lot more now, relocate, he'll get it back, he'll kick it out. I do think if we're playing the over-unders, I think his scoring will drop a little bit, but I do think the assist numbers will go up from everyone with the ball moving and definitely flowing in this one. So, look, positive signs overall. No Cat, no Mitch, no Hart, no OG. Our defensive upside can go up tenfold. But knowing that we've got two demons like Huck Porty and Jemison, they get the solid grade from me tonight. I mean, Trey Jemison's bordering on a standout. For me, let us know if I'm overreacting, but it's hard not to see his potential. To me, he's really been standing out for a guy on a two-way deal. He does have that NBA experience, which does help. Now, David says, I would love Alec Burks back. I would welcome Alec Burks back with open arms. I see the upside. I think right now we're in a tough situation, making that roster crunch. I don't know if I would sacrifice Pacome Dardier just for Alec Burks. If there's an injury at some point in the season and we do need to make a real upgrade, in terms of depth, if a guy goes down, I could understand. But I think right now we could run this into the season and I'd be more than okay. You give Landry Shamet the final spot and you let Pacome Dardier continue to develop, right? Don't forget the connection between Diawara and Dardier. Those two can really push each other and are good friends as well. I think it will help having those two together and stick around. But look, The behind the back pass from JB was play of the game, but this is close second, fam. This is close second for me. Right. Two plays actually. Running the break. Look at the length. No one's blocking that shot. The way Diawara finishes. And the other one, great defense from Landry and Diawara getting floor burns in preseason, right? You'd think that he's playing for his, contract and all of that. Ricardo says we didn't shoot the three ball that well this offseason. Yeah, agree. But today was our best, probably the best performance from three, 37.5. I think the more attempts we're getting up, we just have to make sure that they are good attempts, and in the flow of the offense, and when guys that are open, as long as they keep swinging the ball around, I think we're going to be fine. Would like to see Yabu shoot it better. Would like to see Kolek shoot it better. It'd be interesting to see how lineups look out there with Josh Hart. But I do think Hart's going to be. Think about Hart and his minutes. Like, he's going to be so fresh. Like, prayers up for his recovery. Obviously, if and when Hart gets back soon, and can shake off that back soreness. But once he's up and running, Hart at 20, 23, 25 minutes, that's going to be like 15 minutes a night less than last season. He's going to be so fresh, I think, to be like that energizer, and kill teams that away. And think of those lineups with Diawara and Hart. They're going to be so disruptive, fam. Even OG. Let's say OG stays in with some of the bench guys. Hart comes in, Diawara out there with the wingspan, Huck Porty as well. I think we definitely made an upgrade defensively and offensively as well. Moving on from PJ, Precious Achua, Campaign, Jericho. Who else did we move on from? Delon Wright, obviously, as well. I mean, we just made shout out to those guys because they helped us at times last season, but we just made an upgrade. Knicks one today says, what about Tosan? Yeah, he's around. He's on the two-way. He's just going to be a lot of G League. He could shoot it. Yeah, I guess that further, like you said, that highlights, how good of a position we're in, fam. We had four wings basically sitting on the bench, chilling. We had four wings and Garrison Matthews chilling, right? With Hart. Well, Hart's not chilling, but he was out. We had Dardier, we had Tosan, and we had Kevin McCullough, basically. I mean, we could only dream of this depth last season, man. Last season, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel if a guy went down. This time, we can rest four starters, and it doesn't even make a difference to an extent. I mean, as much as we deserve to be praising Diawara, I think McCullough is a guy who would be in the same position if he was getting an opportunity. Like Knicks one today says, But yeah, McCullough's just going to have to ball out in the G along with Tosan. And I think those guys are maybe next season's guys. Like, they rock out for one more year on the two-way. If we pull off a blockbuster for Giannis in the summer, not in season, but next summer, if we were to, maybe pull off a blockbuster and get some of the depth on our squad maybe shrinks a little bit, I think next season could be a Diawara, McCullough, Tosan, Dardier, all those guys come in. If OG or Macau, end up going in a Giannis trade next season. Again, I'm not doing no trade this season, but I think we are grooming. We are grooming the future, the wings of tomorrow. I think for if and when that happens, right now. And I've mentioned this a million times, but Yabul Sele is only on a 1 year, player option rental. Clarkson, 1 year veterans minimum. So, someone might be taking his spot next season. Let's see how that all plays out. Ricardo says Diawara is the reason I would trade Pacome. Yeah, it does make that a little bit more plausible. No doubt. I want to see more from Diawara. Johnny Chiba says, I like seeing Kolek with Bridges, now adding OG, Cat, Mitch, and you see dimes galore. Yeah, the high-low action, finishing at the rim as well, I think has gone up, like you said. I would like Brunson to just get those dimes up, fam. I do think Brunson could average 8 to 10 dimes, fam. But look, today he was scoring mode, and he was lighting them up from downtown. But again, look at these screens. Like, that's something that Mitch does need to get better at. But Mitch is pretty good at setting screens. But the screens that Trey Jemison was setting, it was freeing up everybody. It was freeing up Deuce. It was freeing up Kolek. It was freeing up Clarkson. It was freeing up Brunson. And that's how you slip a screen from Huck Porty there as well. Slips the screen. But Brunson got to do better at honoring the roll man. Right. Mitch is going to be rolling hard. Same with Huck, with Jemison. I still think one of our weaknesses, we look off the big man, right? And we sometimes shoot a contested shot when I do think we need to, if you're going to do pick and roll, occasionally you do need to find the roll man. Otherwise, they'll start ignoring the roll man. It's got to be effective to get the kickouts and get the floor spacing. You do need that high low action, and you do need to honor the rim threat as well. Otherwise, you just become a 3-point shooting team like Boston, and it's so predictable. Yeah, Grice says the main difference between Mac and Mo D is the age and experience, and I think Mo Diawara has the higher ceiling. So that is out of McCullough and Mo Diawara. So yeah, you think that Mo Diawara has the higher ceiling out of those guys, and yeah, I agree. I think McCullough is a guy who could help us, like from today, because he's experienced. But I think Diawara is only 19, 20, and much bigger, more athletic, and I think he's just more raw right now. I think he's just a little bit more raw than McCullough. But yeah, the upside is definitely higher right now. And yeah, that's probably what I'm most pleased about El Tango. Our wing position is solid this year as well of our bigs. And look, I don't want to look too far ahead down the crystal ball, but if Giannis is hell bent on being a Knick, right? I don't think I'm getting too far down in terms of to say that OG or Macau, won't be on the team. I don't know if it's either or whatever, but if Giannis is a guy that really, the organization are going to make that trade and he wants to be here in 12 months' time, then I do think that one of our starting wings would probably be in that deal. So we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, once again, credit to the front office for these two-way acquisitions. To think that Huck Porty was once on a two-way, and then we converted him real quick. Now we got Trey Jemison, right? Maybe he's the next guy that gets converted. Would not be surprised, fam. Because I tell you what, if Landry's thoroughly deserved that spot, and I appreciate Shamet. Now it looks like he'll make the squad. But let's say if Landry Shamet got hurt or he didn't perform, I would have been the first one to say give Trey Jemison the regular roster spot. Because I do think the big man depth is just as important with Mitch's health, with Yabu not defensively sound, Cat, and Huck Porty is the only backup. But the fact that Trey Jemison can at least play 45 games on the two-way, that's going to help. But if Landry, for some reason, didn't make the squad, I would definitely be looking at a Trey Jemison, and converting him, um, for roster balance, right? But look, so far he's been a standout. Uh, Now, let's talk a little bit about the concerns on the health front, right? Cat is dealing with a quad. Like I said, not ideal. So I guess we just got to, express patience and let him take time to get 100%, right? Cat's not a guy you rush out there, to begin a season, uh, especially with that depth that I just mentioned, and that is why it is important. The other concern is OG dealing with the ankle. Uh, there's a couple days still until opening night, but if OG's dealing with an ankle, I would sit him against Cleveland. Uh, One thing that I know from history is ankles are by far one of the most tricky injuries you could possibly have because they linger. That if you continue to play on it, it doesn't go away. The ankle ligament and the ankle part of the leg is where all the pressure and all the weight, and so for me, anytime I hear ankle, I'm like, yeah, we can take that one slow, fam. So the quad with the cat, the ankle with OG. Hart, look, we know he's a warrior. He's dealing with the back. You know, we don't need him right now, and I mean that respectfully. We don't need Josh Hart right now. We're okay. Um, you know, Later into the season, we're going to need him, but hopefully he can get right soon. And then the other thing, and more on a positive front, is Mitchell Robinson. He was sat today out of precaution, load management. But if today was a real game, um, the reports suggest that Mitch would have played, and so it's good to hear that they are, expressing also precaution with Mitchie, big Mitchie coming into a contract season, right? That is crucial that he stays healthy, also for his, personal gain as well, right? Ricardo says, "Man, Mitch and OG always have some kind of injury." So yeah, I think Mitchie's more of the management, but OG did pick up I think he rolled an ankle, or he did something. Yeah, that's just the nature of the sport, fam. With the size of these guys and the small court, the dimensions, there's a lot of impact. There's a lot of banging knees, falling awkwardly, um, twisting and turning directions. So yeah, I think we are going to get that, and that's why depth is key. Look at Indiana. Uh, for me personally, I would be running a 11 or 12 man rotation, and that might sound crazy to some people, but just because it's a rotation doesn't mean that the 11th or 12th guy needs to play a lot. You just need to give them some minutes, just to keep them active, right? Because I'm looking at Indiana last season; they were wearing teams down. So that's the new age. That's the strategy now, right? When you're running a 10, 11, or 12 man rotation, not only are you keeping guys loose, if a guy goes down, the other guy can step in immediately because he's been playing. The other thing is it allows you to close lineups differently. If a guy has a hot hand, hey, you could sit out tonight, or you could sit the fourth quarter out. If three of the bench guys are rolling, three of the starters can sit. And so with last season under Tibbs, it was always like, okay, no matter how good the bench is playing, by a certain point in the fourth, he was always going to bring the starters back, like a template substitution, like a template, no matter what. And now we don't need to do that, respectfully, because the front office has done their job and has gotten these guys some reinforcements. I think we got 13, 14 guys that could play comfortably. And you could spread these minutes around. Once again, shout out Buzzer Beater, who made this suggestion way back. But Buzzer said no player should play more than 30. I don't think it's as realistic, but I think you could get as many guys as possible to play under 30 would be great. Regular season's just a warm up, and you could start running through some of these teams when it comes to that, fam. Look, is the game changing in terms of the NBA? I would love it if they were able to extend the rosters to 20, fam. You know, cut these two-way situations, just make them regular roster spots, and we'll see if the NBA wants to alleviate this roster crunch with vets being squeezed out of the league, 60 draft picks coming in every season. I think it would be wise to extend the bench to 17 regular guys and maybe 3 two-ways with 17 guys, so you make it 20. That way, you don't have your guys like Alec Burks, Markel Fultz, Russell Westbrook, Dennis Smith Jr. You don't have all these guys getting squeezed over to China and to Europe. They can just ball in the G League, and then whenever you need them, they just come up. They could be a hot ticket for the G League. They could still earn the real veterans minimum contract, and you could just call them up if you get an injury. I think this might help alleviate some of the injuries in the league. So I'm a big proponent of extended rotations. Now, this season, Prezi the boss says, I want OG to finally win that defensive player. I don't know if he needs to play 60 plus, fam. But we'll see how that plays out. And it does look like we have that update. Building Blocks, shout out, says the Knicks waived Gary Bird. Shout out to Building Blocks, just refreshing right now. And obviously, if that's the case, that means that you want to let him find a team as early as possible. Why wait till tomorrow? It's a situation where you want to make these jobs easier for people. You want to offer clarity. The Raptors have waived Julian Reese. Okay. So yes, it's official. Reports Ian Begley. I'll bring this up on screen. So it looks like Garrison Matthews, who didn't play today, that was, something that was going to be most likely. So Ian Begley says Knicks will waive Garrison Matthews ahead of Saturday's 5 p.m. deadline, league sources told SNY. Matthews had a strong preseason with New York. He will draw interest around the league from teams looking for shooting. New York was impressed by Matthews' play, but clubs financially restricted by the second apron. Right, so appreciate the updates all around, fam. So that gives us some great clarity. As I pull the roster up, let's make the update right now. And it's Garrison Matthews. Appreciate the burn during preseason and pushing Landry. But Garrison Matthews now is off the squad, right? Bacome Dardier looks like he's going to stay. Does look like Tyler Kolek is staying as well. Benjamin B comes through as well. Begley Bomb. Yeah, we're living it up right now. Shout out to everyone. Friday night Knicks. Knicks finalizing their squad. And I'm pleased with the decision because I think, look, Garrison didn't have a great game last game. Then he didn't play tonight. So I appreciate his shooting. I don't think his defense was helpful. The shooting would have been helpful. But the fact that Landry comes in tonight, 3 of 5 from downtown, is a big plus. I do think they really buy into the Pacome Dardier 3-point shooting as well. Maybe not at the level of Matthews right now, but they did talk about the metrics during practice and during the drills that Pacome Dardier's 3-point shooting has really impressed the Knicks, scouts front office as well. He has to put it all together during the game, but don't forget he's only 20. And Pacome Dardier offers you way more defense than Gary does. And if the 3-point ball can come along, I think that's going to obviously be something worth keeping around, I think, for now. Look, the major standout from preseason has been Mikal Bridges, and the 3-point ball from him has definitely come alive. I do think that the corner shooting is going to be key, especially running the break. We are going to get easier corner threes, guys, the more we push the break. Ricardo says, I was hoping Matthews made it. Johnny Chiba says, Mike Brown loves the hustle. Shamet, Diawara, Jemison will all get their run. Yeah, that's music to my ears because, again, I want a deep rotation, fam. I want 10, 11, 12 rotations on certain nights. And with respect to some of these teams, we are going to run them out of the gym, fam. There's going to be at a point where it's like 8 minutes in the fourth quarter against Washington or Chicago, and we're up by 11, and it's like, do I bring Jalen Brunson back in, or do I let these guys close it out? We are going to be spoilt, I think, in a position now where we can, let other guys close it out. Deuce McBride as well. I'm loving Mikal Bridges being a focal. Spencer Dinwiddie, no, haven't heard any links. D, haven't heard any reports come out of the Knicks' interest. I wouldn't hold my breath. The fact that the Knicks have just cut Garrison Matthews, Begley is saying that financially the Knicks can't fit him because obviously there's no trade, I think, for Dardier at the moment. The only way we can fit another veteran is to trade Dardier or Kolek. And that seems very, very unlikely right now. Financially, we can't unless we can find a deal. And I do think that at the end of the day, I do think a team would probably take Dardier or Kolek, but we might even have to give up an asset because a team knows how desperate we are. That's the thing. We're not at a point with leverage because, these teams know to clear up space, we'd have to pull off this trade. So I do think that teams are lowballing us for Kolek. They're probably lowballing us for Dardier. And there's no point moving on from a player with upside. I think only to just fit a veteran on the squad. So again, continue to give us your takes and we shout it out. We're closer to knowing our rotation. Looks like Diawara is going to get an opportunity. Yuri also says Huck has looked amazing in preseason as well. I think he's really shine along with Mikal. Deuce McBride's finishing strong. Clarkson, best game today. Shamet, great to have him back as well. So I was thinking, Shamet's spot was still on shaky ground heading into tonight, but he proved me wrong. And I do think Landry Shamet now is on the squad. So congratulations to Landry. And thank you to Garrison Matthews, but hopefully we'll see him in the future at some point. We'll have to wait and see. D says, well, I'm glad the Knicks are keeping Dardier. 100% agree. I think all it takes is just to be a little bit more patient with him now. Maybe think of him as a next season kind of thing. Just use this season to fully get those reps in, develop, as well as maybe with Kevin McCullough. Because, like I said, next season we might be without OG, we might be without Macau. If the Giannis thing, starts to heat up, and I do think Tosan is also a guy that is intriguing, along with the man of the hour, Diawara. We've got Deuce McBride's free agency coming up. There's so many reasons to keep a hold of Dardier, not just because he's balling out now or he's not balling out. There's a lot of financial reasons, I think, to sit tight with Dardier. He could be a trade filler in the future. All of these reasons. I think it's very short-sighted just to move Dardier for a guy like a Matthews. I think when we're good, we are in a good situation. The only thing where I think depth, on the depth front is point guard. With props to Kolek, who's doing his best impression of campaign in terms of trying to get that backup spot fixed. I do think that point guard situation is probably our thinnest, but I'm stating the obvious right here. Building Block says Boston will pick up Garrison Matthews. So no surprise there. I do think there will be heaps of teams looking to pick up Garrison. But again, I'd rather just shout out our guys because I think Landry Shamet has basically shown tonight that he can do everything Matthews can do and some, especially on the defensive side. And Deuce really stepped up today. Look, with Mitchie, I think the theme is we're going to manage Mitch throughout the season. It's going to be an ongoing process, right? He might play massive minutes one game and he might be feeling the effects. And we just have to, come to grips with the fact that, he's so valuable that to our playoff chances that we just have to be patient with him as well and sit him on back-to-backs, with Huck Porty and Jemison up in here. I think we're in a better situation than last season. I mean, last season we had to play Precious at the 5 a lot of times, fam. Too many times to feel comfortable. Precious Achua was our backup 5 a lot of the time from last season. Now we've got Huck and Jemison. I'm okay with sitting Mitch. Look, I think Dardier's got long ways to go. Like, I'm by no means impressed by Dardier either. I just think he's 19, 20, so he's super raw still. And the organization knew this when they drafted him. So I think once he becomes 21, 22, 23, and he's still on cost control, it could look at like a really, really good deal if we keep him around. And I guess the thing that I'm buying into Dardier is the 3-point stroke. All the data analytics and metrics and drills suggest that Dardier's 3-point shooting, I think, will come really good. I just think he needs opportunities, and he needs to play a lot in the G League. As we see, play of the night, the chemistry between Trey Jemison and Jalen Brunson, man, so nice. You got to see it twice, in the words of Clyde. Good chemistry with this one. Looks like practice, right? No shots at Tibbs, but it looks like the practice that Mike Brown's been running. These guys have been, adapting to each other's games a lot more with the ball movement, and the frequency of practice is going to go up this season, guys. These guys are going to be practicing on off days, and that's another reason why I would run the 10, 11, 12-man rotation. Johnny Chiba says, for the first time, Mitch is healthy and dominating the entire league, and now there's a trade Mitch talk. Did you even watch the playoffs? look, there's always a little bit of Mitch discourse. The health thing is a real concern. The free agent deal, I think, would be something to worth paying attention to as well in terms of what the Knicks financially are going to offer Mitch. But yeah, he hasn't got that deal yet. I do think with Jemison and Huck Porty, it's making our depth situation look a lot better. But yeah, I see the value in Mitch. But at the same time, he has to prove that he can stay healthy, I think, for majority of the season. El Tango 45 says, you're right, CT. All that matters in the end is the 16 wins. Yeah. I think the regular season's a warm-up. I'm not going to freak out over regular season losses. I do think Tibbs got the best out of the squad regular season, and he coached that way. There might be some games that we end up losing because we were a bit too casual with the basketball, or we didn't bring Jalen Brunson back in soon enough, but I'm okay with that. As long as we can get the top 2 seed, I think we'll be in business. We'll be in a really, really solid situation when it comes to the playoffs. And look no further than Indiana. Damn, and they showed everyone, just how to do it. Where you could get to the playoffs and you could just run teams out if you are healthy and fully healthy and ready to go and clicking. So yeah, that wraps things up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about some more updates with the roster, but yeah, Garrison Matthews is going to be that cut. Landry makes the squad. Couple of injuries we are nursing right now, but all in all, I think the depth stepped up today. Charlotte Hornets or not, Game 1 comes next Wednesday against tough opponent Cleveland, right? So let's see who can step up in the first one. But Bridges and Deuce and JB definitely look ready to go, right? The bench looks stronger offensively with Clarkson and Yabusele and Deuce. And we'll see who else steps up and gets the start in the next one. Shout out to everyone in the building. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Big up to everyone. Blessed night. And I hope you are well. All is well. Keep the streets buzzing. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.